Foreign Affairs Minister Sean Sober said there's no indication the exercises involve action against Venezuela. Yeah, sure. Okay. Sure, buddy. Sure. He's saying that at the same time that the U.S. is bombing citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, claiming that they're Venezuelan narco terrorists, right? Totally not a U.S.-controlled regime in any way, shape, or form. We are at a very interesting hour with regard to the Venezuela-U.S. military standoff. The USS Gerald R. Ford has landed in the Caribbean. It is docked in the Caribbean. We have satellite confirmation of this. Earlier today, November 16th, appears to show the USS Gerald R. Ford and her carrier strike group in the Eastern Caribbean, positioned near Guadalupe and Dominica and the Les Antilles, roughly 350 miles from the coast of Venezuela. So, USS Gerald R. Ford has arrived from the Mediterranean. Iran can take a sigh of relief. Also, Iran can take a sigh of relief because it is raining cats and dogs in Tehran today, and they needed that rain very, very much. But Venezuela, on the other hand, is not in a good position here with this. I mean, now the United States on these USS aircraft carriers, they have more fighter jets on these aircraft carriers than the entire Venezuelan Air Force. As for troops, this brings the troop level to about 18,000 U.S. troops, which is in no way, shape, or form enough troops to stage some sort of a successful invasion of Venezuela. Venezuela has, I forget the exact number, I think it's 200,000 or 350,000 active duty personnel in the Bolivarian armed forces. They've got another 1.2 million in reserves. The Bolivarian People's Militia has like 2 to 3 million people. I mean, this is no laughing matter. It's not going to be an easy task. 18,000 U.S. troops are simply not capable of this task, which is why a lot of people have been talking about the story of decapitation strikes being presented as an option here and the likelihood of it actually being carried out. Now, Donald Trump was questioned about whether or not he is going to carry out some sort of a military operation while he was on Air Force One just yesterday. And he said, I sort of made up my mind. Yeah, I can't tell you what it would be, but I sort of have made up my mind regarding the Venezuela military operations. I watched the full video. There's no real indication as to what Trump might or might not be thinking we should do in Venezuela. And you know, I guess if I were to say anything from the video, his demeanor, his tone, it didn't really seem like he was all that sure that he had made an idea as to what they're actually going to do. It seems like right now, okay, we have all the aircraft carrier strike groups here. We have all the military personnel here that were set to be deployed. Also, right now, we have some other information I'll share with you. Caribbean Flash, US MQ-9 Reaper drones are in the Caribbean, F-35s, GBU-54 precision bombs, and USS destroyers off the Venezuelan coast. They say tensions are spiking. All eyes on Maduro. We also have this. Again, U.S. Marines from the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit are conducting training exercises with the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force from this Sunday to November 21st. So if you remember a few weeks ago, U.S. military personnel, Marine Corps personnel were on Trinidad and Tobago for 5 days doing training exercises. There was some satellite imagery which showed that some what looked like very temporary, operating facilities had been established at Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago, by the way, I'll remind you once more, is about a 16-minute boat ride, a speedboat ride away from Venezuelan territory, the government of Sucre. So this is very, very close. Foreign Affairs Minister Sean Sober said there's no indication the exercises involve action against Venezuela. Yeah, sure. Okay. Sure, buddy. Sure. He's saying that at the same time that the U.S. is bombing citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, claiming that they're Venezuelan narco terrorists, right? Totally not a U.S. controlled regime in any way, shape, or form. So this is really big for a number of reasons, because now we're in a waiting game. We simply just have to wait and see what the United States is going to do here. Of course, I'm of the opinion that this is a horrible idea to invade. It's a horrible idea to do decapitation strikes. It is not going to be a simple task. This is not going to be a successful operation, whichever way they try to go about it. The Venezuelan Minister of Interior has come out and said, be ready because an action could happen at any hour, which is true. The U.S. has been doing test flights with, I believe, the B-1 bombers near the coast of Venezuela during daylight, and we could very well see something very substantive happen at any given moment. At the same time, Venezuela has ordered a general mobilization. The armed forces are now fully deployed, as are field camps. Instructors without insignia have already been spotted in the country. What is that about? Well, a lot of you have probably seen my videos covering the Russian military aircraft that have landed in Caracas, Russian military aircraft that, by the way, previously were transporting Russian mercenaries around Africa. So there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not these Russian mercenaries, which that mercenary group, I'm not going to say the name of, its name starts with a W, are now partially integrated into the armed forces of the Russian Federation. So this is like, if they're there, this is an official deployment, probably. All of this is happening against the backdrop of rumors that Ilyushin, who belongs to the company, Ilyushin is the aircraft that transports these fighters. The company is another way of putting the name of that mercenary group, is visiting Caracas more and more often, and Caracas is beautiful at sunset. Senior military officials presented President Trump with updated options for potential operations in Venezuela on Wednesday, including attacks on land targets, according to several sources familiar at the White House. New York Times has actually also confirmed that story that Pete Hegseth has presented a series of options, 3 different options to Trump about actions that they could possibly take in Venezuela. Venezuelan sources report that SEBIN Special Forces units are booby-trapping and placing explosives charges across main infrastructures from tunnels to hospitals and major urban centers in Venezuela as preparations for incoming American operations against the country. Now, this is also not surprising because, as you know, Venezuelan President Maduro went out last week and said that the Venezuelan government and Venezuelan military officials were studying Ho Chi Minh as a means to prepare themselves for this possible guerrilla operations that they will have to undertake to combat a potential U.S. invasion. The Venezuelan military has come out and said they mobilized 200,000 soldiers armed with Russian air defense systems for military drills. The government is currently deploying a defensive strategy that integrates all sectors of society. Now, this is where we get into an interesting part of the story, okay? So, Representative Congressman Carlos A. Jimenez, who is one of the chief propagandists of the anti-Maduro, State Department lobbying wing with Marco Rubio, with all of their CIA connections. He put this out on Twitter just yesterday. He said, "We are tracking reports that the Maduro narco regime may be preparing to sabotage key Venezuelan infrastructure, including major bridges, tunnels, and refineries, and later blame the United States or the Democratic opposition. While unverified, these claims match the desperate tactics of the collapsing dictatorship. The United States will continue to stand firmly with the Venezuelan people against tyranny, corruption, and any attempt by the regime to manufacture chaos or manipulate the truth for political survival." So, Congressman Jimenez put this out, and then less than 24 hours later, we see this. 3 transmission towers in the Juan Antonio Sotillo municipality, Venezuela, have been attacked and collapsed. Now, the U.S. government is claiming that this is as a result of, just negligence and mismanagement. And, Jimenez is saying, this is just a corrupt Maduro regime. They can't even run their own power stations properly. Venezuelan opposition leader Marina Corina Machado has called on the Bolivarian National Armed Forces to lay down their arms and cease following the orders of the Venezuelan government. What is going to happen is already happening. That decisive hour is imminent. Act now at this very moment. Lower your weapons. Do not attack your people. Make the decision today to stand with Venezuela's freedom when the precise hour arrives. So at the same time that they're doing these false flag operations on Venezuela's energy sector, you have Maria Corina Machado coming out, this Zionist U.S. pawn, CIA pawn, saying like, oh, you just need to lay down your arms. The country is buckling at the hips. It's all a bunch of BS. Okay, if you have followed the recent reporting by the Gray Zone, you would have seen the story by Wyatt Reed and Max Blumenthal, who interviewed, not just interviewed Jordan Goudreau, who was the man tasked and paid to lead the 2019 and 2020 regime change efforts against President Maduro in Venezuela on behalf of this Floridian Gusano, CIA State Department operated infrastructure network to try and topple Maduro. But also in the Gray Zone article, they go through extensive interviews with the key interlocutors from the Trump administration, like Kraft, like Cohen, like Esper, other individuals that were involved with this from the Venezuelan expat community, the treasonous actors who were involved in trying to take down Maduro. Jordan Goudreau, in his FBI interviews, he literally said every single time the power goes out in Venezuela, you know that the CIA is operational there. And the FBI interviews with those who are working with Juan Guaido and the CIA and the U.S. State Department, they actually bring up specific instances from 2019 to 2020 when oil refineries blew up, killing dozens of people in Venezuela, when power generating stations blew up, causing people to go without power for weeks on end. And they admitted that the CIA was behind all of this. So I would imagine that the situation has not changed since then. And what we're seeing now with these attacks on Venezuela's energy infrastructure are yet again more CIA, entanglement and intervention inside the sovereign affairs of Venezuela. Now, the important thing that you should take away from this story is that we have two major escalations taking place right now, and a lot of ambiguity from the Trump administration as to what they're actually going to do. The first major takeaway is that we have escalation with the USS Gerald R. Ford. Actually, we now have three major escalations over the past 24 hours with regard to the U.S. and Venezuela. Number one, the USS Gerald R. Ford has landed in the Caribbean. Number two, the U.S. has redeployed Marine Corps personnel to Trinidad and Tobago, just 16 minutes away from Venezuelan territory, to do training operations. And number three, you now have these CIA operations inside of Venezuela targeting and blowing up power infrastructure inside of Venezuela to try and deprive the Venezuelan people of their energy as they blame this on the Maduro government. So all of these three things taking place at the same time, I would argue is not some sort of a coincidence. I would argue is the staging, is the preparation for some sort of a larger action against Venezuela, which may or may not involve strikes on the Venezuelan government. Very, very bad decision, but that's what it looks like. That looks like exactly where we are headed. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.